What's up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of Throwing the Jets Live. I'm your host, Steven Zantz, joined by my co-host, Steven Russo. Never, ever normal with this football team. It's just unbelievable. I don't even know really what to say, bud. How are you?
I've been better. It's a weird feeling, right? We woke up Tuesday morning, probably felt it Monday night, right? You were at the game, so I want to hear more about what that was like, but the excitement, that it was really a roller coaster, and you felt great about the win, but then you knew the gut punch was just coming. We knew it. Once Salah gave the presser, and it was just, I don't know. We can't have nice things. And 4 snaps, that's what I keep coming back to. That's like a sick practical joke. 4 snaps, that's all we got. The guy plays as long as he did. He played so many full seasons, only 2 years where he played 9 and 7 games, and he gets to MetLife with the Jets, and it's 4 snaps and done. And you're like, man, I don't know what they have to do. Do we have to kill Joe Namath and bury him under the 50-yard line to reverse the curse and then find maybe that's it? I love Joe, but geez, man, this guy has ruined my life. Let me be real, right? But yeah, I mean, I'm coming to terms with it. And again, like we were talking before the show, I still think obviously this is a good team. It's an improved team from last year. I'm not giving up hope on the season. It's one of those things. You look at it and it's two sides of the coin, right? You say it's still a good team and we got a shot and we'll see what Zach does. But man, how good would it be to have Aaron with this talent?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll tee it up to you, man. Take it away. How was the game? How was the experience at MetLife? What are your thoughts? How are you feeling?
It was weird when it initially happened. I didn't really feel anything. I kind of was numb. Number one, because when you're at the game, you don't really hear what's going on. And I was pretty high up because tickets were very expensive. I was just like, of course, of course this happens. And then I remember I saw him as soon as the play ended. He started walking a little weird, and I was like, oh, that doesn't look good. And then he sits down, and then I'm like, that is not good. And I had no idea what it was because I was too far to see. And then he goes into the tent. Everyone's watching him go to the tent. Then everyone's like, is he coming out? What's going on? I'm hoping it's maybe just he hurt his ankle a little bit. They give him a little a cortisone or something, and he's ready to go. And then I see the cart coming, and I'm like, oh boy, this is not good. But yeah, I mean, overall, it was the weirdest emotions I've ever had at a Jets game because it started out first of all, the introductions and all the players coming out and everything they did with the light show was unbelievable. One of the coolest experiences I've ever seen at any sporting event. The crowd was crazy, loudest I've ever been to since 2009 week 2 home opener with Rex and Sanchez.
You were there at that game?
I was at that game. This game's up there with that, I got to say. But the one thing I really want to talk about is the last few years when I've got the Jets games. The biggest issue I've had is it always felt like we were invaded by other teams' fan base, specifically Buffalo, because they've been to a couple of Bills games. Not this time. I mean, they definitely were there. I sat near a couple of Bills fans, but overall, I would say it was 85-15 Jets, which is crazy because it's never been like that over the last decade or so. So kudos to everybody who came out, but it was just such a weird game because, you're what's going to happen? Is he okay? I don't know. And obviously they couldn't score in the beginning. I mean, you had the really nice Breece Hall run, but it just felt it's Zach. It's just, you didn't know really what was going to happen. And then the second half, they just really turned up. The defense played okay in the first half. I wouldn't say it was great, but they held their own. They did what they needed to do. They held them. But just once the second half hit and they, were forcing all these turnovers. Jordan Whitehead, what a guy. We heard about Tony Adams all season all off season that this is him. This is the best safety ever. Jordan Whitehead, the guy that we all hated, 3 interceptions. It's unbelievable how sports work. But when Breece had that long run, oh my God, the place was going crazy. I wish he scored. Garrett needs to make that block, but he made up for it with probably the greatest catch I've ever seen a Jets player make with my own 2 eyes in person. I mean, worst throw ever by Zach. No one's gonna sugarcoat that. I know Tyler Kirk sent us the view from his seats because he was sitting right there in the lower section. The throw is so bad, but Garrett just makes a heroic catch, and then I was able to hear Joe Buck on the call, and it was unbelievable. And then obviously they get the stop in overtime, the doink, and I'm like, oh my God. As I'm seeing Gibson, like I'm like, he has a path to go. I don't know if he can go all the way, but when he'd scored that touchdown, the place erupted. They're playing New York Groove by Ace Frehley. Everyone is going crazy, dude. It might be my favorite game I've ever been to. It's hard to say because like it was just such an emotional night. But I just anyone who was there, they know exactly what I'm feeling right now or what I was feeling then.
Yeah, I mean, it was crazy from my house. Like it was awesome. And to go back, to the Rodgers injury, like you see it, and then he gets up kind of slowly, and you're like, oh, you're thinking. And then he looks to the sideline, and you see him go like this, and he shakes his head, and you're like, oh no, like what's happening here? And then he drops down, and you're like, oh man, this is even worse. And you watch him, like you said, you watch him go into the tent, you see the cart come out, like all that stuff, the boot, and you're still just hoping. And then the x-ray is negative, and you're still hoping, okay, maybe it's just an ankle and it's not broken. And then the more I read about it as I'm following Twitter like an idiot, the more you're like, listen, as soon as if it's an Achilles, you know it immediately. And I'm like, they know. And it just, your heart just sank. And as Slippery Pete said, actually, no, maybe it's not Slippery Pete here. Yes, it was. Someone, he said that his heart sank into his ass. Yeah, I feel you here, Slippery Pete 726. Yeah, when the blue tent he was watching in the blue tent and then the cart came out and his heart sank to his ass. Yeah, exactly. I feel your pain, and that's exactly how I felt. But for the team to respond the way that they did, I mean, the air could have been completely let out of the stadium and of the team, of the locker room. But credit to you guys that were there. Credit to Saleh and Ulbrich and Hackett for keeping it together, because they completely turned it around and didn't let this define them or define this game. And they pulled it out, and they pulled it out in electric fashion, and it was awesome. And listen, Buffalo's nothing to scoff at. They're a good team. Josh Allen's a top 5 quarterback on his worst day. And the Jets made him look, pedestrian, and they forced him into 4 turnovers, and honestly could have been 6 if you really think about it, right?
So it should have been at least 5. The other, when it comes to stuff with like blowing the whistle and it plays dead, it's different. Wilson's got to catch that interception. It was literally right.
Absolutely. So I mean, to do that and to hold Buffalo to 16 points and to come back from a 10-point halftime lead with Zach Wilson, at the helm, like it's commendable. And let's see what happens as we turn the page to Dallas. And that's all we can do. I mean, no one through the NFL, none of the other 31 teams are going to feel bad for us. It's next man up, and it sucks. Football. Yeah, it's football though, so you got to keep playing. No one's going to give up. This is a talented roster. I mean, we saw that, and that's how you feel. It's like this is as good of a team as we've seen from 1 to 53, and they have to play like it because And the good thing is, listen, you got guys like AVT and Brees back this year, so let's see what they can do. Those are pieces that we didn't have last year. So got to go out and play the games.
Agreed. And look, everyone is just like what can they accomplish this year? I mean, I don't know, but there were 7-10 last year, and obviously, they lost Brees and AVT, and that's kind of when the season definitely changed because that security blanket that Zach had, when he was not playing as well was, both of them, the ability to just get hand Brees the ball and he could just take it to the house, and he showed that ability, even though he didn't actually get to the house, but it's back. And like they're going to clearly give him more work against Dallas this week. But the one thing I want to say, and I feel like a lot of Jet fans, I mean, I'm sure plenty are really sad, but we're used to this stuff. This team is really good. It's not like Jets glasses, as we've said for the last 2 years. This team is legitimately a good football team. I understand that it's Zach Wilson, but it's not just one guy. Yes, they probably go as far as he takes them, or what if they make a move, which we'll talk about in a bit. They're like, that defense is unbelievable. Like, I think it's better than those Rex defenses. I know it's one game, but it's just the disruption, getting to the backfield every play. They had no running game. Even Josh Allen, who typically always would beat us with his legs, he couldn't do anything. And like, they were forcing him to these bad throws. I know people were like, oh, Josh Allen lost in the game. I'm like, yeah, but the Jets defense made him play that way. It's not like he was just like, he was forcing, and they were clearly creating problems for him. So it's like, I know it's hard to really be positive when literally the most catastrophic thing happened with this team. And it's like, when does it ever end with us? But the season's not over, and everyone needs to understand that. And just because they have a huge downgraded quarterback doesn't mean that they can't compete, doesn't mean that they can't beat good teams. They did it last year. I mean, like, they literally had him throwing like 15 to 18 times at points last year, and they still were winning football games. So I just want everyone to understand that the season's not over and just enjoy the ride. There's 16 weeks, and this team is good, and they're going to keep getting better as the season goes along.
1-0 with a division win, first in the conference.
Also, first time they've won a home opener since Sam's first year. Think about that.
Yeah.
Or week 1 and home opener.
Yeah. So, I mean, there we go. Like, you got to, I mean, there's still plenty to be excited about. It's an extreme kick in the balls. There's no question, right? But there's still things to be excited about. There's still things to be positive about. You know, what I foresee is, you know, kind of shades of the 2009 year where you're a run heavy team with a very good defense and you kind of protect the quarterback from himself. Now, the big question is going to come down to, can Zach Wilson take that like next little just baby step up? Can he be a guy that, you know, throws 20 to 24 times a game and gets, you know, around 200 yards and limits the turnovers? That's going to be the difference here. So yeah, the next topic up is, what are you looking for from Zach? And that's it, is just protecting the football, being able to take shots down the field when necessary, and to not make that big mistake. Like that game, on Monday night, that was a classic Zach Wilson game. You know what I mean? He throws for 140 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 pick, the stupid pick in the middle of the field. I mean, I don't know what he's seeing there. Matt Milano was right there. Why are you throwing the ball to the middle? Like it's obvious, but this is classic Zach Wilson. So can he kind of shed those stupid mistakes and the, you know, running backwards 40 yards to come back to the sideline and throw it across his body? Like those are the things that we have to eliminate from his game. But you gotta, you know, it's tough to say because you're asking him for everything. But part of what made him a high prospect and the number 2 overall pick was the ability to gunsling and the ability to throw downfield and the arm talent and all that. So you want to still see a little bit of that. But honestly, we just need him to play safe, quality football, be a mediocre mid-level quarterback, and that's going to be good enough to win you 8, 9, 10 games with this roster. The one thing I will say is, and you know, the question got asked on here by our boy Slippery Pete again, like, what's the contingency plan, right? Or I'm sorry, Alex said that. What's the contingency plan? That's what I'm looking for. Like I wrote an article today and I spoke about it on the solo pod. Like this obviously reminds us of 99. The big mistake in 99 was that Parcells stayed too long with Rick Meyer before making the move to Ray Lucas. I think Saleh's doing the right thing by sticking with Zach. I think they're showing him support. They're showing the confidence in him. That's what they should do. The kid's been in the system. He's learned it through the summer. Like you have to give him the shot. But you also have to understand that the 2-year history that we have on him suggests that it's going to turn towards the negative at some point. You have to be ready with a quick hook to make a move, and Tim Boyle's not it. So go out and get a guy, get Jacoby Brissett, get a Gardner Minshew, get a Colt McCoy, get whoever else, Jameis Winston, like get somebody that you can move to if it does go south, because this roster is too talented to waste on a project year from Zach.
Yeah. And I'll say this. I think that they will make a move. I actually thought they would probably do it by today or tomorrow. And I think it's changed based on the comments that Saleh made. But the one thing as Jet fans that we should really hold our heads up high about is Saleh knows last year he benched him after the New England game. And then basically the only reason he got his job back is because Mike White got hurt. And then he still benched him for the last game after the disaster in Jacksonville. So it's like, I think that no matter what, like they're going to figure out a way to handle this, whether he plays it his way to keeping the job this year. They're going to get a veteran. I know you named a couple guys. I really do think that it could be like a Colt McCoy. It could be, I forgot who the other guy was. The one guy who I would love, and maybe they could talk to them this weekend, is Cooper Rush from Dallas. Like he went 4-1 last year, you know, filling in for an injured Dak. He won't do stupid things. He'll play safe, but like, to me, like the upside play would definitely be more of a Jameis Winston or Gardner Minshew. Jameis, to me, like as frustrating as he is, he's going to like make plays. Like you saw in Tampa Bay when he was the full-time starter up until he left and he went to New Orleans. He's willing to give the playmakers the ball. And that's key with Garrett Wilson. Like you want to keep him engaged. You don't want to run risk of the team just going full mutiny on him because he can't do what they need him to do. So to me, it's like, you got to get someone who at least is going to like score touchdowns. Like Zach doesn't score touchdowns. That's the problem. I know he scored a touchdown obviously, but it was the worst throw ever. And he's got to continue that. He's got to like at least get like 2 touchdowns, like if not every game, every other game. We need points.
Yeah. And I agree with you. I think honestly for me, like the perfect acquisition would be a guy like Jacoby Brissett. I think he can play that safe ball while still pushing the ball down the field, or even a guy like Taylor Heineke. The problem is,
I love that. I'm a Heineke guy.
Yeah, like the problem is that these guys are backups now on other teams. So what's the motive for them to give up a backup because they could blink their eyes and then they're in the situation that we find ourselves in right now. So I really don't know what the move is, but they have to make some move because Tim Boyle being the backup isn't it? Like that can't be. He's fine as a practice squad guy, fine as a third stringer, an emergency quarterback, but not taking meaningful snaps here. And Zach Wilson has had a problem staying healthy throughout his career, right? So there's got to be a move out there, but it's got to be one. It can't be a safe bet. This is a guy that's just going to sit and be fine behind Zach. It's got to be a guy that can push for the starting job and can be ready to come in because we know that this could turn south. So I don't know. I mean, I think, the Stafford talk, the Cousins talk, I think that's really far-fetched. I mean, those teams, they believe
neither of those things are happening.
That's not going to happen. But, and, even Colt McCoy, like, yeah, he's done it before, but that doesn't excite me. But I know, like, if it excited you, they'd be on rosters and starting right now. So it's a tough question to answer, but I think it's got to be someone other than Tim Boyle. I think there's no question about that.
And it will be. It's just a matter of if it happens before this week, which I don't think it will because it's really tough to get somebody ready at this point for Sunday. Yeah. I do think they'll probably make a move after the Dallas game. But I think, and Alex in the comments wrote that he thinks week 3 is the pivot point based on what Joe was talking about on Badlands. I disagree. I think even if Zach had a poor showing against New England, they're not going to have somebody ready to start the next game, especially Sunday Night Football against Kansas City. To me, the point is, how are they looking by the bye week? Because if you get somebody, I guess, next week, it's about a month until the bye week. So to me, that's the point where if Zach is not cutting it, and let's just say you're 2-4, you get one of those games, but it's not going well. That's when you do it, because at least at that point, the person will at least been here for about a month and they've had enough time to like decently grasp the playbook, understand what's expected, and really connect with the guys. But to me, like, I don't really see how they could do it. I mean, like, I guess they maybe would pull, Zach in the middle of the game, but I don't see Tim Boyle becoming the starter. They have to get somebody else.
Yeah. And what I can say with almost 100% confidence is that of any of these like middling, mediocre quarterbacks that we're talking about, kind of journeymen, this would without a doubt be the best situation that they've ever come into with this roster, this offense, this defense, this running game, and clearly the special teams unit. So like, it's going to be the best situation for anybody to be in. And maybe, just maybe, that's exactly what Zach Wilson needs. Because like you said, to kick it off, right? Like, we were 5-2 when Breece Hall was healthy with Zach Wilson at the helm. I mean, granted, Zach Wilson came in Pittsburgh game. I forget what was he as a starter?
Well, actually, I heard this earlier today from Jake Asman. Zach didn't lose a start with Breece on the lineup.
Correct. I think he was like 3-0, 4-0, whatever it was.
It was Pittsburgh, Miami, Green Bay, and Denver. Breece got hurt in the Denver game, but still
4-0. Yeah. So let's chalk it up to that. But again, that doesn't mean that you just put all your put all your eggs in the Zach Wilson basket.
No, absolutely not.
You're gonna ride or die. You still protect yourself. So it'll be interesting to see what they do. But Joe Douglas has to have a move up his sleeve here. They need something.
He's going to make a move. They understand that they need to make a move. To me, and I think it's definitely Aaron driven why Zach ended up becoming the backup, because they do have a relationship and they seem like they do have a bond. To me, you're not expecting Aaron Rodgers to get tear his Achilles the 4th play of his season, but you still have to brace for all scenarios as a general manager. And knowing what you know about Zach, the fact that you benched him for Chris Streveler on Thursday Night Football in the rain should have been a good indication that maybe you should have someone else. You could have Zach as the 3rd quarterback, but look, I'm not the one running the show. You're expecting Aaron to be there. If he misses a game or two, you're like, okay, but we didn't expect this, nor did anyone. And it's like, it's just crazy, especially with this team though. Like, Alex, 3 to 4 quarterbacks play for this team every year. Not always 3 to 4, but at least 2. Mm-hmm. I think, when do you think was the last? I think it was Fitz technically, but Gino came in in that Raiders game,
in
but
the
Fitz
open
never
game.
missed a start. But I guess it's Geno Smith week
2013.
That's crazy.
Rookie
It's
year.
a decade ago.
Yeah.
It's a decade ago.
Rookie year. Yeah.
It's my boy.
Geno.
Before we talk more
sad.
about it is sad. And he didn't look too good last week, but I think he'll bounce back. Before we go into like just previewing the Dallas game, because we have to move past this Aaron Rodgers stuff. I do want to cap, just talking about his Instagram post from yesterday. Like it wasn't I'm coming back, but it basically was I'm coming back. I mean, like the Dark Knight quote was great, and he doesn't want to go out like this. He's too fierce of a competitor. I mean, like I think he's gonna have a bigger chip on his shoulder because everyone's gonna be like, well, he's not gonna be able to rehab, he's not gonna be the same, blah blah blah. It's like it's what you want. I'm like pretty certain he's coming back. How do you feel about it?
I think he's coming back. I don't think anything about Aaron and what we've. And let me back it up a bit and just vent some more. Like this injury it feels like it erased the last 5 months. Like I woke up from open heart surgery and I asked my wife, "Did we get Aaron Rodgers?"
I remember.
No, not yet. And then it was 6 weeks later and we finally he comes on the Pat McAfee show, and then the trade finally happens, and then we go to camp and it's electric and everything, and he's talking about how he's got to pinch himself because he feels like he's in a dream, and everything just went so good, and you get 4 snaps out of him. So no, he's not going out like this. He's not that type of person. And the comments, the Instagram post from him, the comments today from Hackett, he's not going to let this be his last hurrah. He invested too much in coming to the Jets, in making this work, in giving back the money so they can make the moves to make a run. He's got too much invested, and I have to take him at his word. Like he's not going to let this be the last that we see of him. He's going to come back with a vengeance next year. There's no question in my mind. And that quote at the end of his Instagram post, I think I'm going to get it tatted across my lower back.
I saw that
a little tramp stamp for Aaron.
That's funny. But yeah, I think and even beyond that, before he actually put that post out, you had Pat McAfee and AJ Hawk saying, I can't see him retiring. They know some things. Like
they know.
He probably said, don't say I know for a fact, but they know some things. Kyle Brandt, same thing. It's just, and the fact that both Saleh and Hackett were saying that, I think he just is like, I gotta obviously go through this, expect me back, but I want to say it on my terms. And I'm sure he'll be around the team, which would be awesome for Zach, because I do think it'll help Zach with the mental side, because so much of Zach's issues from his first 2 seasons, mental. He just was thinking too much, holding the ball too long. Just let it rip. Don't think. Execute the offense.
He's got all the tools. He can make every throw.
It's crazy.
It's the mental part. Exactly.
And that's such an underrated aspect of playing quarterback that people don't forget. Yeah. Like there's plenty of guys who are big, strong, have, athletic, and make all the throws, like Jamarcus Russell. But if you don't put in the work, which Zach does put in the work, I want to make that clear. Yeah. But it's just understanding. It's like he's got stage fright essentially, because he's overthinking. But I do want to move into this game, and I want to talk about X factors about the Jets and the Cowboys. So let's start with the Cowboys. What do you think the biggest X factor is for the Cowboys? Because we do know Brandon Cooks might not play. I know Zach Martin was added to the injury report, but I would expect him to play because he practiced, and it was just today he was added. And then obviously they have an injury with Tyler Smith. Our old friend Chuma Adoga is actually starting, which is hilarious. But what would you say is their biggest X factor for this game?
It's the obvious. It's Micah Parsons. Like that guy is as good of an edge rusher as we've ever seen, maybe since like LT, which is crazy to say, but seeing what we saw in pass protection on Monday night from the Jets, I mean, if I were the Cowboys, like I would line Micah Parsons up on the right side against Dwayne Brown all game long. Well, their right side, our left side, yes. And I would attack it, and that's what I would do. But so that is clearly the X factor for me is Micah Parsons and blocking him. Like he is insane as an edge rusher. So the Jets keying on stopping him, whatever they have to do to block him and keep him off of Zach Wilson, they have to do it. That's going to be the biggest determination in the Jets having success on offense or not.
Yeah, I totally agree. I actually think it's their run defense, because their run defense is low key not as strong as people think. Yeah, I'm just saying, like their pass rush and their secondary are good, but their run defense isn't as strong.
They gave up a lot of yards in a 40-0 win.
I know.
Like
So
That's kind of odd.
yeah, so they need to be more, efficient in that area, and they need to understand that like they don't have the depth the Jets do, and they obviously send more edge rushers versus letting them win their matchups. So I think if the Jets could run the ball effectively like they did in those ground and pound years, I think that could be a huge thing. But if like they're stopping the run, we're in deep trouble, just because then you're making Zach beat you, and making Zach beat you has not worked well for us. So I think if they're able to stop the run, it's going to be a really tough day for us. What would you say, though, is the biggest X factor on the Jets side of the ball?
I'll have to go obvious again here. I think it's Breece Hall. I think if Breece Hall can come out and have a game similar to what he did on hopefully more carries as he kind of builds up. I mean, he showed he was ready to rock on Monday night, 10 months after an ACL tear. Like, that's insane. So if the running game can get going, that is carried by Breece Hall, obviously Dalvin Cook, coming in behind him. But if Breece Hall can get going and the run game can be solid, that just opens more things up for Zach Wilson. That's ball control on the Jets side that enables the defense to get rest. They can attack Dak Prescott, like all this stuff. If you can control the run game, if you can control the ball and get Breece going, he's absolutely the biggest X factor for them. And he's going to be the key to winning this game. And if he can get in the end zone, that's even better, obviously.
Yeah. To me, it's actually Quincy Williams, who we didn't really talk about earlier in the show. That guy was all over the field, and we need him to do that we need him to be that presence across the middle of the field, because CJ Mosley is definitely getting older. I do think that there's, probably some decline that's headed his way. And it's, he's been a great Jet. He had the greatest greatest 3 quarters ever in 2019 before we didn't see him until 2021. But to me, I want to see how Quincy does again against, a pretty good offense. I would say, though, like, they obviously have CD, they have Tony Pollard, they have Dak. They don't really have an established tight end. I know Jake Ferguson had like a solid game against the Giants, but he's not Jason Witten in his prime. Cooks is older, but he also may not play. Gallup's okay. It's really a couple weapons. It's not like, one of those teams that has weapons all over like it's Cincinnati. So I'm just curious to see how they do. But another X factor is actually Hackett. I think Hackett, just the way he game plans, it's going to be interesting because we've never seen him develop a full game plan in a regular season game for Zach. We've only seen him obviously do it for Rodgers, seen it for Blake Bortles. We've seen it for Kyle Orton in Buffalo. I just hope that he's able to scheme up the way he did with Bortles in 2017 when they went to the AFC Championship game, almost up to the Super Bowl, because he was just doing the things that were easy. And Zach showed on Monday night, at the very least, that he was actually hitting the screens and those little gimmies that he couldn't hit his first 2 years. So that was a sign of progress from him that I do want to give him some credit for. But yeah, I'm curious how Nate, schemes up this game.
I agree. I think a big takeaway from Monday night, and I think a monkey wrench got thrown into their plans once Aaron Rodgers got hurt, obviously 4 plays in, but Mecole Hardman had no snaps on offense. So he's a great speedster gadget guy. Like, can you force feed him a couple of touches? Can you get him going on some jet sweeps? Garrett Wilson, with another year under his belt, is better this year. Like, how do you get creative to get him touches? You got Breece Hall and Dalvin Cook now in your backfield. Like, those are playmakers. You got Jeremy Ruckert, who's got a year under his belt, who's also a great blocker. Like, there's playmakers here. I think Lazard is an obvious upgrade at wide receiver too. So, like, find ways to get creative, to get your playmakers the ball, get the ball in their hands, and let's see what they can do. I mean, you're going to have to do it with Zach Wilson. You're not just going to be able to drop Zach Wilson back 30 times and let it fall on his shoulders to just go out and throw the ball and win the game for you. Like, you got to be a little bit creative. Not to the extent I think we're used to, like Mike LaFleur having to be so, quote unquote gadgety in the red zone. No. But you do have to find a way to catch the defense on their heels a little bit and throw them off a little bit and see what you can do to get, a little frisky with the ball and figure things out to get creative, to get, the ball in the playmaker's hands. Get Mecole Hardman some touches, man. Get him a jet sweep. Like, see what happens. Like, you have to be able to be a little bit different. You're not going to be vanilla on offense and win this game.
Now that Aaron's not playing, can he just take all the snaps that Cobb gets? Like, to me, there's no excuse. Like, Cobb was exclusively an Aaron signing, and he has the comfort with him. There's no reason that Hardman shouldn't be playing. We need that speed. We need that dynamic element, like you said.
Yeah.
And Cobb, I'm sure he's reliable and making clutch catches, especially on third down. We need a game changer, and he's not going to be it, unfortunately. And I said that with all due respect.
Yeah.
One thing I want to talk about really quickly before we do our predictions for the game is how mad is Dalvin Cook? He $7 million is nothing to be mad about, but
Yeah.
It's going to be like with Aaron Rodgers.
He even said, he's like, I just want to take one snap from the GOAT. That was it. And he didn't even get that. Poor guy.
So funny. All right. Predictions for the game. What's happening on Sunday at 4:25 when Jim Nantz and Tony Romo are calling the game?
Oh man. I'm gonna stay positive. And I just have a weird feeling. I feel I'm very, how should I say it? I'm very encouraged at the way that this team was able to rally despite what happened. Like, we've watched that Jets game a million times before, and every other Jets team folds in that position every other time. And this team didn't. And they stood their ground and they fought back and they pulled out a win against a really good Buffalo team. I think, honestly, I think Buffalo's a better team than Dallas. I really do. I just think the Jets are going to somehow gut this out, and I think that they keep it rolling. And I think that Breece and Dalvin get going. I think that's really the key there. You mentioned it, is Dallas's run defense isn't that great. I think Zach makes enough plays. I think you see him throw for like $180, maybe one touchdown, but Breece and Dalvin get rolling a little bit. I think it's going to be another low-scoring game. I think the Jets win 20-16.
Okay. All right. Well, I'm not going to be as positive because I don't think they're going to win.
Clear divide in the show, Steven. Clear divide in the show.
Look, we can't just say the Jets are going to win every week, and we both said they would win last week. But I do think that they're going to play really hard. It's going to be competitive. They're not going to get their doors blown off the way the Giants did, even though obviously there's limitations at quarterback. This team is too good. Defense is too good. I think it's going to be, like you said, a low-scoring game. I think it's going to probably end up being like 24-14, but it's 17-14 going into the fourth quarter, and then they get that icing on the cake touchdown to make sure that they don't lose the game. Maybe it's a Zach turnover, maybe it's just a miscommunication in the secondary that CD scores. But I do think Dallas wins. Jets, I unfortunately do not cover the number because I think right now it's at 9. It's fluctuating between 9 and 10. But I can see a scenario where they cover, but I do think they end up losing by 24-14.
All right.
Listen,
taking a turn.
I'm trying to be pragmatic.
Okay, you're being realistic. I get it.
But I do think it's going to be there. This is not going to be one of those games where you can turn it off in the first quarter. Remember, we used to always say, can the game not be over by 1:30 on Sunday? I think they're going to show signs of life. And I agree with you. Like, on Monday, I've seen that game so many times. Like, I think when Trevor Siemian was starting on Monday Night Football against the Browns, he gets hurt and it's Luke Falk and literally lifeless. Like, this team won't be lifeless. They're too good. They're too well coached. And I do want to give Saleh some credit because I think that was the best game he's ever coached since he's been here, just because think about the circumstances, keeping those guys, their heads up high and everything like that. And you got to give it another shout out to Xavier Gibson, who was not only the Rookie of the Week, he was also the AFC Special Teams Player of the Week. So good for him, man. It's like the coolest story. Just thinking about like the last episode of Hard Knocks when he makes the team, and it's literally like that stuff is like literally like a storybook ending. It's like the coolest thing ever. The guy scores the game-winning touchdown in his NFL debut. So
Brax would have fair caught it.
I was watching Brax the Miami game, and I'm like, what a traitor. I'm so mad. I know he's from Miami. It kind of made sense. But
it was fun while it lasted. Until he dropped that pass against Minnesota, then every Jets fan just started hating him. Like, screw you, dude. You know what it is? For us.
I think about it with him sometimes. It's like the 2021 team was just not good, and he actually was just like a spark. So we all kind of just like gravitate towards him. We've seen that so many times. The guy who's really not that good, but because the team is not great and they've shown some flashes, that you're like, exactly, like it's happened. He's
our savior. Braxton Berrios, give him all the money. I don't care. Whatever he wants, just keep him here.
Well, I kind of worried he'd go back to New England, and I didn't want that. But being in Miami is just as annoying.
Yeah.
Any closing thoughts before we just give everyone the reminders as we do every episode?
No, I mean, I think obviously we're all coming to terms with this. I was in a deep state of depression on Tuesday.
We all were.
I have since broken out of my shell a little bit. I've come to accept it. I think we gotta this is a very good team. It's a very talented roster. I think there's going to be a lot of good and fun things that happen this year. It may not be the 12-5 that I predicted or the 13-4 that we were hoping for or whatever. It may not be a division winner, but they're going to make some noise. And shades of 99. I mean, that team in 99, it was eerily similar to that. And I'll tell you, that Ray Lucas led team down the stretch was 6-2, and nobody wanted to play them. Like, nobody did. So if the Jets can just get that momentum this year before it's too late, it's going to be a fun year. And if they gel together and if Zach Wilson can show some improvement. So I think there's some fun things to come. I think we obviously, Steven, you and I, TOJ Live, Badlands, we got a lot of cool things that are happening. We're both writing weekly articles. I did the solo pod earlier this week. We're going to continue to pump out content. So we appreciate you guys. And Slippery Pete 726 is my new favorite fan, man. This guy's awesome. Mike LaFleur allegedly cock-blocked us from signing Brett Rippon. Yes, I did
see that today. But
they showed interest and they elevated him from the practice squad. So
it's just so funny. The Jets have a weird connection to Brett Rippon. He ended the Sam Darnold era. He started against us last year in one game that Russ got injured, and now we tried to get him. It's such a weird thing how this guy has a weird connection to the Jets. It's funny. Really quickly, I forgot to actually do this earlier. We should do updated record predictions of the season. I said 11-6. I think, did you say 12-5?
I did say 12-5.
What do you think now?
10-7.
Okay. I think 9-8. So I still think they have a winning season. I think that they're in the hunt for a wild card spot. Don't think they can win the division. I know that a lot of people thought they could with Rodgers, and I definitely didn't think it was out of the question. But I do think they do have a winning season, and they're really a tough out for everybody all season.
Listen, man, the NFL consistently changes, and it's changed to be a quarterback-driven league. But still, even as recent as the Hackett-led Blake Bortles, get to the dance, and crazy things can happen.
You never can happen.
Never know.
Just like Rodgers got hurt, another quarterback can get hurt. Like in any point, any player, it's crazy. But
just get to the dance. We made a run with Mark Sanchez in 2 years back to back. Like it can happen again. So just get yourself to the playoffs, get yourself to playing football in January, and that's it.
Yep. Reminder real quick, subscribe to the show on YouTube, www.youtube.com/@BadlandsTOJ. Subscribe on Apple, Spotify, Amazon, Google, wherever you get your podcast. We appreciate anyone who subscribes, who comments, who reviews. It really comes a long way. And also, just congratulations to Justin on winning his Quentin Williams jersey. It has shipped. Hope you enjoy that, and we'll probably do another one next year. Appreciate everybody who tuned in, and we'll talk to you guys next week.